All righty, so Chancellor, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Royal. I appreciate that. I'm a bit under the weather today, so I have asked Royal to facilitate, and I will try to be the timekeeper so that we get through our agenda, which is a very long. The first thing I want to do is thank everybody for being here, and I also want to publicly thank the DAS president, Donald Moore, because he was the one that reminded me that we were supposed to have a PBIM meeting, which, it may seem like I've been here a long time. And in retrospect, looking historically, I have been associated or affiliated with the district since 2004, but there are a lot of things that have happened since the time that I left in 2013. And this is one of those new items that has been added is the PBIM Summit. I think we used to get together, but it wasn't called PBIM. It was just called a district-wide kind of a meeting, collegial meeting. So with that, I want to thank again all of you for being here with such short notice. What we did was roll over the agenda with some tweaking, minor tweaking from the previous time that you had this last year. One thing that Royal did not mention that is on the agenda is I do want to take a little bit of time to talk about a process that I've discussed with some of you, not everybody in this type of forum, is some aspirational goals that I'd like for us to address. And I'd like to get your feedback on that. One of those is looking at tri-chair, and the other is looking at developing a budget philosophy, which will help us in times of growth and also in times where there may be restrictions. And so the recommendation in terms of best practices is that you develop that when you're not in turmoil or stress, is that you develop that so that you have a compass to guide you as you move forward in whatever direction, whether, like I said, it's a period of growth and we have additional funds, or whether it's in an era of fiscal restrictions. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Chief of Staff and also to Mark Johnson to identify the process for this particular webinar. So thank you all. I will be popping in and out, but I'm really listening because this is my first time going through this process. So thank you all, and please let us share and establish goals for each of the committees. That's part of what the breakout session is for this next coming academic year. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thomas, do you have something you want to share before we turn it over to Mark?
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that you flipped my and Matt Freeman's roles as far as committee co-chairs for the district committee. So I'm co-chair of PBC and Matt is co-chair of DTC.
Thank you. We will make sure that's updated. Thank you very much for that. Mm-hmm. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Mark Johnson.
Hi, good afternoon and welcome everybody. The little talk I have is really perfunctory at this point since we've been using Zoom for meetings for a year and a half. So I just wanted to remind everybody to please mute yourself when you're not speaking. If you'd like to make a point vocally, please raise your hand through Zoom. Sometimes we're not going to see you if you physically raise your hand, so use the Zoom feature to raise your hand. If you're not familiar with that, you can open the participants list, find your name, and there's a button there that says raise hand as part of your listing there. Chat is open. We encourage you all to use the chat feature to help keep the conversation going both in the session and on the side. I would like to ask each of the agendized section leads, if you need some help monitoring chat or monitoring for raised hands, let me, Chief Roberts or Sasha know, because we can certainly help you. Maisha will be busy taking notes. And that's really all I wanted to say. Welcome.
Thank you. And in addition to having you all flipped, I see Mr. Freeman, we spelled your name incorrectly, but we'll get it. We'll get that tightened up. I tried to do it, but it's a PDF on the sheet that I have. So with that, we are into the committee report out sections. And I'm going to turn it over to the committees and their co-chairs to any major actions from academic year 2021. So with that, the first committee we have listed is the PGC. And I would just ask if, just briefly before you start, just say what your committee is and what you do, not a long version, just a quick highlight, because we do have some new faces, some as new as the past couple of weeks. So first off is PGC, and I have here Dr. Donald Moore and also the Chancellor.
Good evening, everyone. So we're doing what happened this past year, I guess. So yeah, well, as everybody knows, we're still in COVID. And that's been probably the biggest news. PGC met over the course of last year, and our new Chancellor, interim Chancellor, came aboard, and we've been regularly meeting, and we've just sent out notices about this upcoming fall. The major issue that this council does is basically to talk about strategy, to talk about issues to approve and forward to the Chancellor. And the Chancellor, she could speak in a second, co-chairs it, but that's her role there. But as Chancellor, she receives from the participatory governance committees at the district if there's some action item. And part of the issue that we try to address here at PBIM is to really try to address what are the roles and processes by which advice is given to the Chancellor or to anyone else. And so as we all know, accreditation has been major and the budget has been major issues. And so I can't speak to all of the different ones, but those were the major issues. Chancellor?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Donald. And that speaks to one of the things that I was going to recommend under the CWG, which is the Chancellor's Work Group. Also, because we do have new individuals that are sitting in for the first time, we get used to using acronyms and assume everybody knows what that means, like ACCJC, which is like, oh, doesn't everybody know that? Not always. So correct me if I get this wrong, but I thought PGC stands for Participatory Governance Council. And the primary charge is that is the lead committee for the district that includes representatives from all of the constituency groups. They look at recommending policy, recommendations of administrative procedures. They review what is going on in the district that everyone needs to be made aware of. It's a forum for discussion, for debate. And in some cases, we establish subcommittees to go out and to gather information and bring it back to the body. It is a reporting out body for the different constituency groups, and they make recommendations. Even though I co-chair it with Donald, I really let Donald run the meeting because it's, it's, if you're making recommendations to me and I'm running the meeting, it sometimes form and function get a little muddled. So that is what that committee, in my opinion, again, if I missed something or misspoke, please let me know. That's my assertion as from the time that I've been here. And again, I know it may seem like I've been here a long time, but things have changed since I was here back in 2013. So appreciate you taking the lead on that, Donald.
Yeah. No, that's all I'll say unless people, Royal, have questions about any actions that we might have taken.
No, that's perfect. And throughout the day, throughout the presentations, the various presentations that will be held, we'll get into a little more detail. So that was absolutely perfect. The next committee is definitely the longest acronym, District Academic Affairs and Student Service Committee. So I'll let the co-chairs for that step up and introduce themselves and their committee.
Greetings, everyone. It's good to be here to talk about DASC. I'm Siri Brown, the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs and Student Success and co-chair of DASC. And I'll allow my new co-chair to introduce himself.
Hi, my name is Matt Freeman. I'm the president of the BCC Academic Senate. I previously served on PBC, and I still am a member of PBC, but I've been recently asked by DAS this year to step in as a co-chair of DASC, and I'm getting to learn a little bit more about it, and I'm looking forward to working with Suri in this co-chair role. And that's pretty much it. I don't really have any details in terms of knowledge. I'm going to be following Suri's lead quite a bit this year and getting to know the committee and the charge. So thank you.
Thank you. The DASC, we call it the District Academic Affairs and Student Services Committee. As you might recall, those of you who were at last year's summit, we transitioned the committee to be more of an advising body to my office because my office is both instruction and student services, as is noted in the acronym for this committee. So there's a lot of areas that we discuss. Last year, we discussed enrollment and the challenges with enrollment that are happening statewide because of the pandemic. We discussed what was happening with dual enrollment and had some brainstorms about that. We discussed credit for prior learning as we were preparing with Joseph Belinsky's help, thankfully, the AP and BP changes for that. We had discussions about surveys to students. Dr. Helen Koo, who is serves in the district institutional research office, brought back a few times to us conversations about student surveys and then conducted a student survey. And so this committee probably maybe most importantly about this committee is that we have two subcommittees that have really strong participation from faculty. That is the Distance Education Committee, as well as the Career Education Committee. And so they also at every meeting give reports. And so I'm going to ask our new Director of Academic Affairs, for those who haven't met, Director Albert Manuel. He's in my office and thankfully is taking over three very busy and growing areas: career education / strong workforce, Oakland Promise / dual enrollment, and distance education. And so he is going to give the report for our two subcommittees, DE, distance education, and CE. Albert?
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start with the charges of both subcommittees. So in general, both subcommittees' primary role is to increase the communications between the college's career and technical education and distance education programs, and also to better support all the CTE and distance education programs. In addition, both subcommittees are responsible for making recommendations to the DAASSC, okay, when it pertains to any recommendations for any operational aspects of pertaining to both subcommittees. Now, as for their highlights, I'll start with the Career Education Subcommittee highlights from last academic year 2020-2021. So they were involved in the review as far as accreditation, reviewing the reports for the ICER, the FICMAT, and the ACCJC resolution for request for transparency in all fiscal operations at the district. The subcommittee was also responsible last academic year for reviewing all the Perkins and both the local and regional shares of the Strong Workforce Program budgets, just to monitor the rate of spending at each of the colleges and the district, including the discussions on how funds could be reallocated should the remaining or unspent funds are not utilized by the end of the funding deadline. Several members of the subcommittee participated in the ad hoc return to face-to-face committees for CTE labs and hands-on skills instructions for last fall 2020, and discussions on soft opening for face-to-face, particularly for science and the CTE classes that requires hands-on training, were covered in those discussions. Referring to the grants, like we have an online education initiative grant for career education program. So some funds were utilized over the summer to train the faculty in online teaching pedagogy as part of the switch to online teaching due to the pandemic. It was also noted that the College of Alameda's Career Center, Laney College, the National Science Foundation's grant in biomanufacturing supply chain, they're continuing to meet their respective grant objectives. Furthermore, last November, the job description for the career education liaison position was developed, got approved, and posted to fill the positions at each of the colleges. So these positions are funded through the regional Strong Workforce Program. And lastly, Berkeley City College developed a new youth apprenticeships program. And also all colleges reported the continued progress in all their career education programs as well. With regards to the District Distance Education Subcommittee accomplishments from last academic year, so in support of the distance education plan and in response to the COVID-19 pandemic forcing all classes to go online, the subcommittee provided recommendations for the update and improvement of the Administrative Procedure 4105, Distance Education, to include Student Code of Conduct, Student Privacy, and Webcam requirement, and others. They also provided recommendations for an effective use of the Learning Management System, which is our Canvas, the one that we use, and its configuration. And major focus was training and supporting online instructors to enhance student success through Canvas and the state and locally funded learning technology integration, also known as LTIs. And very proud to report that we have joined, the district has joined the California Virtual Campus Online Education Initiative Consortium and establishing protocols to align with their standards, to meet their standards. So far, we have already met some of the requirements, and we are just waiting for our IT to integrate, our programs, online courses into the collaborative.
Thank you,
And
sir.
also the subcommittee recommended changes to our AP 4105, the distance education, which is now in the process of being reviewed through shared governance process. That also includes, they also recommended on policies for online instruction based on the FERPA guidelines and regulations. The subcommittee also recommended and requested combo classes and recommended on class size capabilities, including online faculty course evaluation, guidance for submitting help desk support, other distance education support. They have also conducted various surveys, to faculty and students to meet, some of their needs, data needs. Last year, they also launched another position. It's an educational technology coordinator, whose primary role is to administer the online faculty resource Canvas Shell and the LTIs. We also recommended to hire college distance education coaches to support faculty. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Manuel. That's a busy subcommittee.
Excuse me, just if you wouldn't mind, Royal, I do appreciate Director Manuel giving that, even though they were a little lengthy. They're lengthy because they do get a lot of work done. So I appreciate giving us the latitude of the time.
Thank you.
Yes.
And those were just the highlights.
Thank you. So with that, we will go over to the PBC, which is the Planning and Budget Council.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Renbarger. I am the Academic Senate President at Merritt College and also co-chair of PBC along with Adil Ahmed. So the Planning and Budget Council is mainly responsible for oversight of the district level budget development process. And so throughout the year, the committee receives reports from the Office of Finance, usually given by Adil, on either where we're at in terms of the upcoming fiscal year's adopted or budget plan, or looking at projections like 5-year projections for what the available funds would be like for district operation. The Budget Allocation Model Task Force, so you've heard of this BAM task force. You may have heard of this. This is the Budget Allocation Model Task Force, and it is a group that's closely associated with PBC, although technically not a subcommittee, since there are some members on the BAM task force who are not on PBC, but also quite a few members of PBC are on this task force. And we've been working with a consulting firm called Cambridge West, and in particular with CM Brumbat, who has led us through what other schools or what other districts have done in terms of aligning their budget development process to include the metrics that will be used for the student-centered funding formula. And so the BAM task force began meeting in December or January, I believe. And we have set ourselves the task of trying to put together a proposal to present to the main PBC committee in order to include all the elements of the student-centered funding formula in our budget development process for the upcoming academic year, the 2022-23 academic year. That would then, if the PBC approves, then that would go to PGC, the Participatory Governance Council, and if they approve of the recommendations, that will be passed on to the board of trustees. And then our 2022-23 budget development process would include all these elements of the upcoming student-centered funding formula. So that's where we're at with the PBC. I don't know if you want to add anything, Adil.
I don't have anything to add, just to present myself. I'm Adil Ahmed. I'm the interim Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administrations. I'm the co-chair of the BBC. My job is to present to the BBC the budget when the governor released in January. We anticipate what will be our budget, so we present our budget to the BBC, and the tentative budget and the adopted budget were approved by the BBC. And I'm also a member of the task force. We are working on the budget allocation model regarding the SCIF. So in fiscal year 2022-23, so the colleges has their own budget if that is approved by the PBC and PGC and the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Next, we will go to the DTC, District Technology Committee.
Thank you, Chief Labert. My name is Antoine Mele. I'm the district CTO, and I co-chair the DTC with Matt. Matt, you want to introduce yourself?
I do. Thanks, Antoine. Yeah, Matthew Goldstein. I teach humanities at the College of Alameda, and I'm also the Academic Senate President on the island. Antoine, would you like me to proceed directly to our accomplishments? Thanks.
Yeah,
so,
and I will give the updates.
Terrific. So I'm going to share my screen here if I can pull this off successfully. With this lovely slide prepared by Violetta de Leon for the DTC. And I should say right off the bat that I'm more of a lovable sidekick figure on the DTC than a technological thought leader, sort of the Ed McMahon or Flavor Flav of the outfit. So I'm going to read the accomplishments here, and then I'll turn it over to Antoine, who will do the heavy lifting. So these are the goals that we set out for 2020, 2021, and we accomplished them happily. As you can see, we were to establish a process or a subcommittee for the DTC to receive technology requests to vet those requests with a student-centered and equity-mindful approach, and then make technology recommendations for the PCCD community. This is a big one, I know, on many folks' lists around the district. We were out to ensure the PeopleSoft upgrade project and the district-wide technology master plan were completed and updates brought regularly and broadly communicated, and that too has been accomplished. And we wanted to make sure that all of our work was aligned with the 4 pillars of guided pathways, map the student journey to identify technology issues, those issues that would impede the progress or success of students. And you can see there are a couple of ongoing projects there as well, tracking student vaccination records and this ongoing ESOL project. Antoine?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Matt. So for the first goal, we did accomplish and put a process in place where the colleges were able to provide the technology gaps to the DTC, and those were pushed forward as a recommendation. Out of that, a RFP of almost $5 million is put together right now, and it's advertised to address the core issue, infrastructure issue at BCC, wireless issue at Laney, and other district office also will get some upgrade. We have an upgrade for the last 10 years, and also Merritt College and Alameda College. So all colleges are getting some technology requests they have. Out of that also, the colleges got money to upgrade the computer refresh, and the colleges, each colleges are working on prioritizing that and getting that out of the door. The second goal for the PeopleSoft upgrade, we completed, like everybody knows, the phase 1 was completed successfully. Now we're engaging the phase 2. We did have some setback regarding Peralta in our staff being able to participate fully on the project. And also we have some setback around the go live date that was scheduled for July 27. So as a setback, it's a positive. I'm seeing it as a positive things, because the great things is we got a new chancellor that came in and wanted us to review all our processes and also making sure that we implementing this project successfully. And out of that, then we are engaging right now with a company called Huron, who's coming to assess our business processes. Did we do it right or not? And also to help us have a deployment plan and a training plan that the staff can deploy, can take. Because the issue here is we have been bogged down, the staff have been bogged down on a lot of other projects. That is ACCJC and FIDMAT and all those reports that they needed to do. So it's kind of delayed the project a bit, but I see it in the positive light that we take a step back and so we can deliver these products successfully. And we are on the way of that. The assessment started this week, and we should be complete this assessment within the next 3 weeks and make a recommendation to move forward. The third one is that project is sponsored by VC Brown, and it's just got kicked off this week also, and it's a very interesting project because it highlights our deficiencies on business processes, technology, everything. So this will be a game changer if we get this right, and we'll recognize all the gaps and close them as quickly we can. Now we have the PeopleSoft pillars upgraded to 9.2. There is a lot of opportunity we can do to improve our systems. So we do also address some ongoing project going on right now, the vaccination record card project for the students. We were able to come up with a system to be allowing students to upload a vaccination card, and there will be a system of having those cards on our systems. And also we are looking at faculty be able to know the status of the students' vaccination record, and also weekly testing record. And there will be reporting, and we are working on the logistics of how this is going to be done. And there is a meeting kickoff on Monday. All the Return to Campus Committee is reviewing the protocol and policies and procedures for that. The ESOL project. That's a very exciting project. Also, it's part of Guiding Pathway self-assessment. That's a project sponsored by VC Brown. I just got off that meeting, and we are looking at a mock-up and identifying an area and mapping out a business process to get it done for the self-assessment of the students. So those are a very big project and very exciting time. So we are looking forward to work with everyone to address all the issues that need to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both.
And also we have submitted along the highlight and all the work of the DTC on the length. We have submitted a document, extensive documentations to Maisha to be disseminated later on. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, we will now go to the District Facilities Committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Etheria Smith, and I am the interim vice chancellor.
IBC Smith, are you in the room?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Etheria Smith. I'm the interim vice chancellor of General Services, and this is my first PBIM summit as chair of this committee. And I've served on the committee before, but not as chair. My co-chair is Rachel Goodwin from COA. Unfortunately, she's not going to be able to make the meeting until later this afternoon. So we look forward to her participation in our breakout session. The facilities, the District Facilities Committee, the DFC, serves in support of district-wide facilities needs throughout the district and ongoing review of available resources. And we plan priorities and implementation of and discuss the facilities district-wide master plan. The DSC serves to advise the district service centers and colleges on the resolution of overall facilities maintenance needs. And that includes deferred maintenance, preventive maintenance, and discuss review of plans and make recommendations pertaining to construction, remodeling, and the reassignment and use of our facilities. So specifically, the DFC serves to make recommendations pertaining to how we make recommendations. We report out to the college representatives. We looked at the college representatives, then share that information with their facilities committees. And we also try to attend those facilities committees as much as possible. And it also goes both ways. We look to gather information from that facilities committee. We work with the representative from that committee and then report back into the DFC itself. Again, we look to communicate facilities needs district-wide. We plan across the district, district-wide, and we seek collaborative solutions and how we use our facilities resources throughout the district. We also try to give current information with regard to legislation, regulatory proposals, and funding streams. I have to report that last year, our meetings were very sporadic due to changes in our department. We met very little. Our first meeting, however, we did meet the PBIM scheduled first meeting. So we were able to go over the survey that Rachel Goodwin put together and review the comments that we received from the survey. And most of those comments did address, well, it was communicated to the committee that we need to meet regularly. We need to make sure that our communication gets out. We need to provide more information out to the colleges. So in our next meeting, we will address our goals and make sure that we integrate communication into our forward goals. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ivy C. Smith. And thank you all for those updates and introductions. Before we move to the next portion in our agenda, which is basically reviewing the outcomes from the 2020 summit, which to some may feel like a lifetime ago in this COVID life that we're living. I do want to just take this opportunity to do a little bit of what Matthew Goldstein did in his presentation, but just to lift up our classified professionals that support these meetings by the way of taking minutes, sending out those reminders, and doing so much work that without their support, this would fall apart. So I just, again, just want to take an opportunity to lift up those individuals and the work that they're doing. So with that, our next portion in the agenda is with Dr. Donald Moore and Dr. VC Brown with the 2020 summit outcomes. I'm sorry, I do see one hand from Mr. Alejandro Acosta.
Thanks, Royal, and thanks for that shout out to Classified. You know, I don't know if this is the appropriate juncture to bring this up or not, but you know, given that we just heard the report backs from all the committees, I felt like it was my opportunity to get it in there. I really want to encourage everyone here to take a look at our PBIM manual and really take a look at those committee makeups. In particular, the ones that I'm really concerned with are the DASC and the PGC. But really, this applies to all of the committees except for probably district facilities and technology. And so what I'm trying to say is that the committees do not have what I consider to be adequate or equitable classified representation on them, right? And it's really glaring to me in committees like DASC, where it's supposed to be about student services, but we don't have enough classified professionals providing student services on that committee to allow that committee to, you know, make informed decisions about those things. Of course, the same is true of the PGC. And, you know, I know that at Laney, a trend before I got there had been to remove classified representation from committees because people weren't showing up, you know, and the committees needed to meet quorum. And I totally understand that, but I would just like to posit, you know, in this forum that I think that's maybe a kind of regressive response to that problem. And that instead of removing classified or not including classified for whatever reason in these committees, we instead look institutionally at, you know, why classified aren't participating in these committees. And, you know, personally, I would point to the lack of a corresponding administrative policy to BP 7340, which governs leaves, and in particular leaves for, you know, elected officials. So if we look at DASC and we look at PGC, it's got the elected faculty Senate presidents on there, but it doesn't have the elected classified Senate presidents on there, you know? So I think that we need to look at this PBIM manual, we need to revise the committee makeups, and we need to look at some actual policy that provides classified professionals with the time and resources they need to bring their expertise to these shared governance processes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, and we appreciate that. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Donald Moore and BC Brown.
I'm sorry, Royal. I just want to make a comment, and I want to thank you for bringing up the comment about classified professionals. If you look at the agenda under item number 5, under Chancellor's work group, one of the things that I am proposing is that we look at our committees and look at a tri-chair structure, which would mean a representative from the district academic senate, as well as a representative from the district classified senate, so, and an administrator. So that is on the agenda, but point well taken.
Thank you, Chancellor. Okay, you'll have the floor.
All right, thank you. Donald Moore is going to start us off by talking about PBIM.
Okay, thank you very much, Siri. Yeah, folks, back in 2019, I guess now, right, at the PBIM summit, there were discussions on changing the PBIM structure. There were discussions around centralized, decentralized. There were questions around any number of different things. And I think Siri will show you what was done to that point. But there was a work group that started meeting in 2019. And that proceeded in 2020, probably with only one meeting. And the focus of those meetings primarily were on centralized and decentralized. We had a summit meeting last fall of 2020, and we have the agenda. But as Siri and I looked, we really were trying to see what were the takeaways from the meeting and what action steps were we supposed to be taken from there. And we haven't been able to find what those items are. So there was a work group that was created to try to look at these various issues, but we haven't really been doing much of anything since 2020 on those. And so there's some successes, as I indicated, in terms of the centralized and decentralized issue, but there's a whole host of different information that was presented in 2019 that was presented again in 2020. And so let me turn that over to Siri right now.
Thank you, President Moore. There were, from last year's summit, a couple of major topics that we did discuss and did decide upon. One of them was the ongoing discussion we've had about revising the BAM and how the challenges of the BAM subcommittee. And so it was decided that, that committee would continue to reconvene, hopefully to be able to come to an agreement on a proposed revision to the BAM. And from what I understand, that we're actually very close to that. So that is some work that did move forward. And as much as that's been an ongoing discussion for a few years, it's looking like progress is happening. And someone on that subcommittee could report more about that. And then we also brought up another repeat kind of item, which was the structure of the PBIM overall, and whether or not there should be a PGC, which was the newest addition that seems to be in question by a number of people. And so that there was no decision made about that, but I believe we did decide to look at the structure. So what Alejandro Acosta brings up, in looking at the structure again and looking at the manual, it may be something that we decide this time that we definitely need to do because there have been changes to the structure. For example, the District Enrollment Management Committee, DASC and DEMC, that was called, we decided to collapse DEMC into DASC because there was so much repetition happening. So there's definitely some structural challenges that we discussed then, and we may need to continue to discuss. And then I'm going to screen share also what we shared, what we all collectively discussed 2019 and 2020 that also are still somewhat relevant. And that is this. Hopefully you can see. We did activities and reflected on what was working with the various committees. And each committee reports that there are things and were things that were working. And then we talked about improvements that may be needed to the committee. And there's a variety of different responses, but lack of representation, Just picking a few: ensure diverse and equitable. This is the classified professional issue. This has come up before as well. No student reps are showing up. That's been an ongoing topic as well. And then people reporting that it takes a couple of meetings to establish goals, and by that time it's December and half the academic year is over. So some of those challenges continue from 2019 on. And then we also put forth some recommendations to the PBIM process. And this may, again, be something that we look at again and see where we've made progress, what we can strike off the list and what we cannot. And then improvements on communication. One of the areas of communication that is talked about is the disconnect between the college PBIM committees and the district PBIM committees, and the lack of communication back and forth sometimes that causes us to say, what's the connection between college processes and shared governance and district processes and shared governance. And I'll stop there because those of you who've been with us in this the PBIM summits and on committees the last couple of years, hopefully that will help jog your memory and will add to what we discuss today and ongoing this academic year. I think we saved a little time on the agenda, Chief Roberts, because we're done.
Don't worry, we're doing great, and this is the reason we're here. So great job, and thank you for that recap. So we're now at the point in the agenda where we go to the Chancellor's work group and basically talking about task force priorities. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Chancellor, at this time.
All right, thank you very much. Again, scratchy throat here, not trying to develop a radio voice or anything like that, but one of the things that I found is that when you have very large committees like we have, and it's demonstrated by the number of people that are here right now, we have 57 people that are logged in to review this and to provide input. I'm sure when we do our breakout sessions, it's really difficult to come to a consensus regarding when you have that many voices sitting down at the table. So one of the things, and frankly, I got it from Peralta, when I moved to different organizations, Chabot Las Visitas as a chancellor, and then I came back in 2019 to work over in the San Mateo Community College District, is that I would get recommendations from the constituency groups for a task force. I called it the Chancellor's Work Group. Like I said, I got that from Dr. Wise Allen. He started a Chancellor's Work Group to provide some input on our integrated planning and budget model that we have right now, although it's morphed since that time. I did the same thing when I went over to Chabot Las Visitas, and they did not have an integrated planning and budget model. And so I used that same kind of format. And then when I went over to Skyline College, we were looking at our committee structure. You know, the consensus was we had too many committees. There were committees that were no longer functioning. There were committees on the books, and we were getting ready for accreditation. So I established a president's work group, because a work group is something that has a very specific task. It is there to address those and to come back and make recommendations to the larger body, whether that is committees on the campus or whether that is at the district level, going through the chancellor, and then ultimately, if it involves policy, to the board of trustees. So on the agenda that I added and kind of tweaked is the idea of setting up a chancellor's work group. And it speaks to some of the things that Alejandro brought up. One of them that I thought that this work group could do would be to look at our committee tri-chairs. And we just in item number 3 above identified what are the district-wide participatory governance bodies, the PGC, the DAS, the PBC, DTC, and the District Facilities Committee. And so looking at those district-wide committees to see if indeed we could establish something and put it in policy or recommendations regarding the structure to make those tri-chairs, because our two major and students, of course, we always want students on there, but because students are here and are gone, I didn't think that they should be chairs. I think they should be included on the body in terms of constituency group representation. But I thought for consistency, maybe we should look at tri-chairs. That's been done at other colleges and other districts. And what it does is it validates the contributions of all of our major groups, our classified professionals, as well as our faculty. And usually it's chaired by or co-chaired by an administrator. So those are our 3 major groups of individuals. And so I'd like for maybe some recommendations of who should be on this. It is not a committee of 27 people. 2 people, we don't want to go with Noah's Ark of 2 by 2 by 2 of everything, multiplied by 4, multiplied by the district office, multiplied by each of the, but people, you guys are the leaders. To recommend someone that if a recommendation comes from this temporary body, CWG, that individuals would say, well, I know that, and I'll just pick a name, President Garcia was on that committee representing administrators. And I think that, I could go with that. Or Jennifer Sanowski was on there. And I'm not trying to give you names of people to put on there. I'm just trying to give you kind of an idea so that we don't have a 2 by 2 by 2 multiplied by 5 and wind up with the same thing that we have right now. The other item that I would like to look at under that CWG umbrella. Oh, my battery is running out. Have I lost you guys?
No, we still hear you, Chancellor.
I can hear you, Chancellor.
Okay, my little thing came up to say low battery. So let me transition to get my charger. The other item that I thought that we might look at, and I mentioned it briefly in my introduction, is looking at a budget philosophy to kind of guide us through periods of, where we have money to spend or discretionary funds, or when we don't, and we have to look at, what are our priorities? And it's part of best practices. Some of our sister organizations have done that. So it isn't like we're going to start from scratch, but using that as a guideline and getting the input so that we develop something that represents our culture. So I thought that would also be one of the tasks of this Chancellor's work group. It could be that they recommend that we have a different body that looks at that, not that it's part of the Chancellor's work group, but and I'm not one of those people that like to have meetings. If we, have meetings, I like for them to be such that we get something out of the meeting, or let's cancel the meeting. I'm not one of those that like to just do that. So with that being said, I'd like to get feedback. And if the consensus is that we move forward, then I would contact the representative bodies for names for consideration to work with me on coming back. And then we would go through the shared governance process on the campuses as well as throughout the district, because there may be different recommendations that are coming in. And again, we could discuss that. There's not a timetable that I'm looking at, but I'm hoping that we could get through the recommendation process. And for next year, when we start nominating individuals, then we go through that process of who's going to sit on what committee, and that we do that before the end of the year, so that when we come back in the fall, we aren't scrambling around to say who's going to be on this committee, who's representing, somebody on that committee. We do that in the spring before we leave so that we hit the ground running when we come back in the fall. So comments?
Thank you, Chancellor. And we're not asking for you to offer up the names right now or anything like that. What we're basically, if someone either feels as though they want to play devil's advocate as to why not, or has a valid concern with moving forward, now would be the time for us to, kind of try to talk through that. But don't feel as though we're making the final decision as to who's going to be on it right now. So with that, does anyone have any questions, comment, concerns regarding what the Chancellor just presented? I see Dr. Bayrami.
I'm in full support of this proposal because for some of us who have been here for a while, we have seen the structures change. And the last change in this district participatory committees had some questions because it didn't have broad participation for our four colleges and the district across the board. Faculty, I raised those questions in my role as a faculty in the past and now in the role as an admin. So I think this is a fantastic idea. Thank you so much, Chancellor, because it's much needed.
Thank you for that feedback. Okay, and if someone, as we move the agenda, if someone says, oh, I didn't think about this or didn't think about that, don't feel like you can't reach out to Maisha, myself, Sasha, or the Chancellor. But with that, we'll look at how we reach out to the each constituency group and move this process forward. Anything else, Chancellor, before we move on to the next item?
No, I don't have anything. And honestly, I know maybe this is a forum where individuals feel like they can reach out to me directly. I encourage you to do that. Otherwise, I think silence is telling me that there's no one vehemently opposed to us moving forward with this. So that may be a wrong assumption. So if you are, please, direct your comments, but I think it's in, I'm trying to look at from a broader sense of trying to establish policies, procedures, participation, so that it's consistent and that those foundations are grounded in policy and grounded in best practices. So that's why I'm putting forth this initiative.
Thank you, Chancellor. And I know we have a lot of things here at Peralta, but I know one of those things is not shy people. So I think people can be pretty vocal if you strike a nerve the wrong way. So with that, I will move to the next item on the agenda. And I think Thomas, because he kind of touched on a little bit of this during the PBC report, but VC Ahmed, we have an update regarding the Pbim task force.
We still working to task force, and I will let Tom to add if he has something to say. We are working on that. We gave all the information to CM. So we're working on that and we're moving forward, and we're believing that for 22-23, we'll be ready to, if this is approved, that the colleges will have their own budget. But this is still on process and we're moving forward very fast. And I will let Tom, we're very satisfied that where we're at with CM and with all the team. And we're believing that we're gonna have this ready. So once the BBC approved what we're recommending, then the PGC will have to recommend to approve that. So I will let Tom to go into more details if you want to, but We're working very hard on that.
And Thomas, just real fast, again, it was one of those things where I realized we were using this acronym. Can you just give a brief elevator as to what the Pbim is and why we...
So the acronym Pbim, B-A-M, stands for the Budget Allocation Model. And so what happens is that the district receives funding currently based on apportionment, which is to say enrollment. And then there's a process to figure out how much money goes to each college, how much money goes to the district office from that allocation from the state. And so what the budget allocation model task force is charged with is that there's this so-called student-centered funding formula, which moves funding away from being wholly apportionment to 60% apportionment, 20% serving students like Pell Grant or AB 540 students, and then 20% to basically students earning some sort of degree or certificate. So this is it's definitely a shift in the philosophy in terms of how the districts across the state get funded. And so what the BAM task force is charged with is figuring out a way to incorporate these elements of the student-centered funding formula so that in our future budget development processes, we can actually have those considerations integrated into that budget development process. So where we are currently is we just went over CM Brownbot presented us he presented us a breakdown of I believe it was the adopted budget from a recent year, just using the regular sort of apportionment. And then the next thing we're going to do is see how those numbers would change under the student-centered funding formula. And then, excuse me, space heater turned on there. We are going to go over how the student-centered funding formula, the SCIF, SCFF, would have affected the actual budget from a recent year. And I believe that is fiscal year 2019-20. And so this will really show what the difference is sort of in a real life situation. And then this is all done because presently our funding is based on a 3-year rolling average of enrollment. But given our decline in enrollment, many districts are funded on what's called a held harmless philosophy, which is that you receive the funding equal to this rolling 3-year window from the recent past. And that funding is available for a few years yet, but eventually that funding will go away. And when that goes away, we want to be in a position to maximize our funding from the state, keeping the student-centered funding formula in mind. And so ultimately, we want to present something to PBC, I believe no later than November, so that it can get to the board by December. And then that would be our budget development process, starting with this year's budget development cycle.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I have President Garcia.
Yeah, hi there. Good afternoon. Thanks, Tom and Adil. I certainly appreciate seeing the really, I mean, you all are covering a lot of data. You're covering so much in that particular task force. And so I just have a process question. Do you all feel that the conversation or the expectations are that folks who are on the task force are being asked explicitly to take it back to their college campuses, gain input either from the college budget development committees, and then bring it back before it goes for governance approval? Just wondering where the intentional connection is to make sure that at the college level, the information is being discussed and just given opportunity for some additional input.
Yeah, so CM actually has encouraged the members of the committee. He put together a draft budget allocation model handbook. And so he encouraged the members of the committee to bring that back to their colleges for input. And then we've actually, in our last meeting, we actually did receive some comments from, I think in particular, it was Lowell Bennett from Merritt College, who had a number of questions about just about the overall process. And in particular, whether the funding model makes provision for having, I think the issue he was most interested in was whether the funding model sort of mandates having 75% of all classes be taught by full-time faculty. And the answer to that was no, but it could, it could be adjusted to try and shoot for that. So there is a kind of this informal, share back to your colleges, receive input before the budget allocation model handbook is finalized. Yes.
Thank you. I mean, just as a point of recommendation, or I mean, if it would be helpful, I think that much the way we did with the most recent round of accreditation, just kind of hosting a what would be considered like a district-wide presentation that could be shared across the colleges might help, just to make sure that the same kind of talking points, the same, Tom, you're so well versed on this and fluent now on it, so that other committees at the college level might be able to do that, so that the task force members know that they're taking similar conversation back and forth. And yeah, just a thought, but I really wanted to thank and acknowledge the work, because I think being a part of a budget allocation model revision is no small feat. And certainly the work in progress that's been done just in this past year, I think speaks volumes. So thank you all very much.
Yeah, we've come a long way. We've been meeting twice a month, for an hour and a half since like January. So we've come a long ways in a short time.
Thank you. So the next two in the queue, we have President Donald Moore, then we have the Chancellor, and then I also just wanted to lift up a comment from Dr. Belinsky asking where the BAM draft handbook is or will be posted. So you can answer that after, but let's go to Donald Moore next.
Yeah, for me, Tom, it's just a follow-up on what President Garcia was speaking on. I do think we need to do a timeline and points of where we're communicating, right? Because I know that the handbook is going to have everything in it. So maybe we should use that as the driving device that goes forward, right? And as it gets refined, I mean, we're pretty much at a draft point, I think. The only remaining issue is the district and what percentage the district is and so on, that we're all trying to tackle. So some kind of way of, if you know that we need it to the trustees by December, having some points of where information is going out and do we want the college, budget committees and the college council to look at it? Do we want, who, senates or whatever? But the broader, the better, I think. And so any kind of way that we could create that and get that out to folks, I think would be really, really tremendous. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for
Great
that.
points.
And thank you, Mark, for posting that in the chat. So you don't have to, you're off the hook for that question regarding where is the handbook. So
I don't know if the handbook is, I don't know if the draft version of the handbook is posted on that site or not.
Okay.
But if it's not, you can reach out to me directly, or I could even, forward it to everyone here or whoever's on this mailing list.
So next in the queue is the Chancellor.
Just a comment, and really to endorse what both Donald and what Angelica said. This recommendation that you're putting forward will touch everybody. And so the broader the dissemination of the information, the better. I do think it is a bit aggressive to present it to the board in November and expect them to vote on it in December. I'm just being honest. We have 2 readings in our policy for any kind of change to policy, unless it's an emergency. So I think you will get pushback from them that, this is affecting the entire budget and they're hearing about it in one meeting and you want them to vote on it in the next. And I think that's just a bit unreasonable. So I don't know how you guys want to do that. It's like we did fireside chats about your return to campus because that affects everybody. And we're still hearing from people that we're still not getting enough information out. The budget is going to affect every individual in this district. And so I do believe that you guys need to take it on the road and to get that buy-in, to feel that it wasn't just done by those people that have an interest in it, that it has been fully vetted. How is it going to affect us compared to where we are now? and address all of those questions before you present that to the board and have the board ask you for those same questions. Just a recommendation.
Yeah, I think that, sorry, I think that's fair. And if we don't make it in time for the 2022-23 fiscal year, I mean, the work will still be there for the next academic year if it slips by one more year. But the hope was to try and get it underway for this year's budget development process. Whether we make it, open question.
It's always great to have aspirations, and you guys, if you don't put something out there, how do you know you got there? If you don't say we're going to try, I just think, especially given that we've gotten one more year extension on hold harmless, I think we have a little bit of buffer, and then that will give you time to go through. You guys finish your handbook, vet it during the spring, get comments, feedback, and hit the ground rolling in the fall and get it adopted so it can be in that budget cycle. I think that's reasonable, Tom. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. That's what we're gonna do, because there is a lot of hard work that we have to work on. It's not something that's already done, and in December we're gonna have everything ready. So the hard work is now remaining how the district gonna be funded, but it's gonna be a broad discussion with the colleges and with the district. So we're not ready yet, but I believe if we can make it in 2022, 23, will be 2023, 24. So a lot of hard work is still there.
Thank you, VC Ahmed. And we have one more person in the queue, and that's Dr. Goldstein. Go right ahead.
Thanks a lot, Royal. Just a quick comment, and that is, folks may know that, or may remember that the BAM was originally conceived to foster competition among the colleges, and that's been a longstanding concern around the district. So I wanted to hear from Adil and Tom about what measures have been taken in this revised model to foster collaboration among the colleges, as opposed to kind of the cutthroat competition that was built into the original model.
Yeah, that's a fair question. And I think the biggest sort of radical revision to how the monies would be allocated is, instead of there being sort of a top-down disbursement process, the units that produce apportionment ultimately are the colleges. So the monies would actually go directly to the colleges, and then there would be discussion about how much the district office would be funded from those monies. And then whatever's left over, the colleges can keep and then spend as they see fit. That doesn't necessarily automatically mean that the colleges will maybe cooperate as much as we want, but there's a sense of, whatever we can do to increase our enrollments and our degree awards and things like that. It's more kind of self-contained. This is what we're going to do, as opposed to saying, well, there's this pot of money from the district and we're going to compete for it. So there's this kind of bottom-up revision that maybe will, if it doesn't necessarily foster further cooperation, and maybe it should, it may reduce the incentive to sort of have this cutthroat sort of interaction between the schools. That's what I would say.
Thank you. Chancellor, I see your hand up. That may have been from before, but I want to just confirm that.
I agree. I think that as you guys go forward, to Matt's comment, I have been trying to do the same thing. I don't believe that one college has to point to deficiencies of another college to be recognized for their hard work. I think that we either rise together or we fall together. It is not an individual. People look at us as, oh, you're with the Peralta district. You may be Laney College, you may be, College of Alameda, Merritt, BCC, it doesn't really matter. People tend to lump us all together. Our students look at us as different. because they attend the different institution, but the general community, I think it does not do that. They tend to glump us all together. So anything that we can do inherent within developing a new model for budget allocation that minimizes that reward for competition, I wholeheartedly endorse that. And I don't have a solution, but maybe if we all put our eyes together, see what you guys have gotten so far, give you some feedback, guidance, recommendations, criticism even, or applauding you, then we will come up with a better product in the end. So thank you for bringing that out, Matthew, because you're absolutely right. That was how we came up with it. And accordingly, we reacted based on that model. And it's hard to change that institutional climate, but we're trying.
Thank you. Thank you all for that discussion. So we're at our scheduled break. I'm going to ask for your indulgence. Instead of 15 minutes, let's go 11 minutes, and let's all come back at 2:30. So please make sure your volume is turned off, and see you back in now 10 minutes. So welcome everyone. If you're not on the screen, I'm just going to assume that you're in earshot of us, and we will resume the summit. What I did want to mention there, just kind of as a housekeeping thing, later on in this meeting, we are going to be moving into breakout sessions. I know that Maisha has done the pre-work for those listed on certain committees. She's assigned them to specific breakout groups. The only challenge is some of us are in multiple committees. And if you're the chair of that, obviously she's going to put you in that committee. But if you're not the chair, but you serve in 2 different committees, and then also the other individuals who may be not necessarily assigned to a committee, but may want to go into a breakout group room over the next few presentations, if you could go in and rename yourself, and at the front of your name, just put the acronym of whatever breakout room you would like to be assigned to, whether it be, PBC, DASC, PGC, DFs, whatever it may be. And that'll assist us in kind of knowing where to, which breakout room to assign you to when we get to that point in the agenda. And I'll repeat that a little bit later if someone, for whatever reason, is not back yet. So with that, I will move into the next presentation, and it is a PBIM overview presentation, and it'll be. I want to introduce my co-facilitators for this presentation, Dr. Inger Stark, who is the Staff Development Coordinator, myself, and Dr. Tina Vasconcelos, who is the VP of Student Services. So if you could hold your questions to the end, because we've actually allotted some time after for questions, and also that's it. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Thank you. So I realize that we jumped right into the PBM, and we've done updates from last year and so forth. And so what we're doing now, it's sort of midpoint-ish really, is we're sort of regrounding ourselves in what the PBIM is and why we exist and how we function. And so that we're primed going into our breakout rooms with our different committees going forward. So we're starting with PBIM, which is the Planning and Budget Integrated Model. And starting with what's our why. We talk about this a lot, especially in the guided pathways or personal, development arena, but I think it's also really important to know what's our why for our structures and our processes in our governance structure. So one of the whys is to provide inclusive leadership so that all constituency members across the district, not just at the district, but across the colleges in the district, to include them in decision making. And one of the things for me that's really important is that it improves the flow of communication, or can improve the flow of communication when it's running smoothly. Whereas information is being shared at the college level, it's flowing to the district committees. For instance, if there's something shared at the facilities committee at the college, flows to the district facilities committee, perhaps decisions, recommendations, and so forth can go from there to the PGC and Chancellor, and then goes back to the colleges and so forth. So in ideal world, when we're functioning really smoothly, that is one of the best, it is one of the best communication tools in our district. And it honors all of the voices in our constituencies, include students, classified professionals, faculty, and administrators. So the models is our organizational structure on regarding how we make decisions. So the entire PBIM is designed so that recommendations come in, flow through it, and up to the chancellor, who has her and also, or whoever it is, and the board have the final decision making, but we provide recommendations. So just want to be clear, we're not decision-making bodies, we're decision-making and recommendation bodies. And as far as when it comes to what's our relationship with accreditation, if you look at the standards, we've all gone through the ICER and development of our institutional self-evals recently and our visits last March. When you look at the standards, it's really looking about broad decision-making and in the process on all different levels, instructional matters, facilities matters, student services matters, and so forth. So it's really ensuring that all voices are present in the process. Other considerations as to what's our why is SB 1725 and bringing in the notion of faculty voice in decision-making, and also sort of added with that is 10+1 in academic and student matters that the academic senate has a voice in. So that solidifies that process, but we also include, like I said earlier, classified professionals and also students. Title V is another consideration, and then also making sure that we're following our Peralta, you're right, AB. Thanks for the typo heads up, Joseph. So it's AB 1725, not SB. Thank you. That's why saying it sounded so strange. Thanks, Joseph. So BP and AP 3250 in Peralta is related to our governance and decision-making processes. Next slide. Thank you.
Want me to talk, Tina, or you want to keep going?
No, it's you. You're up.
Okay. Okay. Well, by the way, it is Tina found this lovely graphic and put it up there. And so Tina kind of covered the sort of legal, structural, organizational reason why we have a planning and budget integration model. And I said I was happy to speak briefly for sort of at the 20,000 foot view, that there are a couple other considerations. And one is to remember that we are funded through taxpayers' dollars and public money. And because of that, we have an obligation to be good stewards of that money and to follow those parameters that Tina's talked about, that you all have talked about, in being really good stewards of public money. And so that we have an obligation to be sort of transparent and ethical and deliberative and make recommendations to administration, primarily at the district level to our chancellor, about how those funds get used and how our institution serves our community. And sometimes when we're doing a lot of committee work, or we're doing deliberation, we kind of forget that. We get stuck in what does the procedure say, or we get sidetracked in talking about a lot of things. And I think it's really good, particularly at the district level, although this is very true at the college level also, that we almost start each committee meeting by reminding ourselves of that 20,000 foot view, that the reason we're here is we are charged with making recommendations about how our institution functions and how we use public money to do that for our community. And the second thing is that the district level planning and budget integration is about not getting in the way, right? Each college has its own independent processes, but how do we as a district collaborate? And this comes up to the question that just came up of the old BAM model, possibly putting colleges in competition. But the reason the planning integration model at the district is designed the way it is to be able to support college autonomy and also to serve our community collectively and make decisions about how we do that. So at the district level, the committees should never meddle in decisions that belong to the colleges, but bring college leadership, faculty representative, classified professional representative and expertise, and administrators together to deliberate and make recommendations on things that affect all 4 colleges or that happen specifically at the district office. So I just wanted to remind everybody about that 20,000 foot view. And I really find it super helpful when committee meetings are launched by kind of reminding ourselves, that's why we're here today. We're not here today because it was on our calendar, because my Senate president appointed me, right? We're here today because we are stewards of, and leaders of an institution that belongs to the community, really. And we make decisions for them collectively at this district level. Next slide, Royal.
Thank you. So now, and again, this may be a bit repetitive since we've talked through kind of the goals, but basically this is dealing mainly with the structure. And to the points made previously, the PBIM is not an arbitrary structure. It is very intentional, and it's a deliberative process that should be used to make informed decisions. It works as an integrated district-wide planning and resource allocation advisory model comprised of the following committees, which we heard from earlier. So I won't belabor that point. But what I will mention is even this is not a stagnant process. As I was going through the documents, my co-presenters, there was something in there that talked about Dempsey, and they were like, "There's no more Dempsey." And sure enough, BC Brown earlier mentioned how Dempsey was actually collapsed into the desk. But we have the ability, as we see fit, and what best serves our organization to do that. Also, we heard from Director Manuel about the work that the subcommittees are doing. So each of these committees also have the ability to create subcommittees. The other thing I wanted to mention that may not be, as explicit, but some of the committees actually meet jointly, and I'm not sure how often they do that, but I've been in meetings where the district facilities and then the district technology committee meets together, and so on and so forth. So these committees sometimes, as we know, there are many overlapping issues that will require even some collaboration between participatory committees. The next slide basically talks about the flow of information and how information can flow or should flow from the colleges to the district, from the district back to the colleges. And again, I want to thank my co-presenters for really highlighting this point. Now, I want to express that this may not be an exhaustive list as to all of the specific college groups that give information, and even within each respective college, these groups may have different names. So college roundtables, college councils, college facilities committees, college facility and technology committees, the college health and safety committees, the college campuses, cabinets, the college budget committees. Thank you, Dr. Bayrami, and also student and other groups. So these groups should gather information from the colleges, send that information with their representatives to these participatory governance committees to highlight the information flow that was discussed by one of my co-presenters in a previous slide.
So again, I feel like what we've said is being repeated and was said in the earlier sessions, but I just wanted to, the main point here, I cut the bullet points from the actual PBIM manual. And if you haven't had a chance to look at it, Maisha sent it out. You can find it again. It's long, but it really is an excellent guiding document. These are not all of the bullet points and they're abbreviated. To me, they're some of the really important ones about what it is we do there to align to the big missions and strategic plan, to collaborate across the colleges, to focus and remember our whole reason for being here is students and their achievement, to make wise communication between and among broad constituent groups and our chancellor, who ultimately is making a lot of the final decisions, to use data and to be guided by actual facts in our decision making, and to be also, as you heard earlier, collaborations between the colleges and the district service centers. So the district service centers responding to college needs and input about the way they are. And again, the main thing is to point out that each committee has a charge. It's kind of like if you stay in your own lane and stay focused, talk about efficiency. Maisha is going to talk a little bit about efficient committee stuff. Things can be done. What we're not decision makers. However, that does not mean that recommendations don't have an incredible impact. They do. In many ways, recommendations that come from PBIM are incredibly powerful because they represent a broad constituent group of administrators and faculty and classified professionals. And when they come out of these district groups, they represent all 4 colleges. So sometimes people are like, well, we only get to make recommendations. It's like, yeah, but recommendations are really powerful when they follow this process and come through the committees. And I can tell you firsthand, I have seen many things that have been decided at the committees move up to a chancellor and up to her cabinet team and then come back as implemented in one way or another. So what have I forgotten, Tina?
I think you're good.
Okay.
So too.
Matthew, I see this is just perfect for you. We're just here for you today. So you can raise your hand. What's your question?
Thanks very much. I anticipated that very cleverly. So I just wanted to highlight a question that Joseph has put in the chat a couple of times already. It's one that he and I have been asking for a number of years, and that's about the PGC itself and its relationship to the entire PBIM structure. So it's a relatively recent innovation. And I think the peculiar thing about it is that it sort of sits between the old PBC and the Chancellor's office. And the Chancellor, of course, is part of the PGC. So in essence, the Chancellor is making recommendations to the Chancellor as part of that committee. So I'm curious about whether this group can revisit the entire model today or at a future date and look carefully at that strange innovation that to some of us has never seemed quite right. So I editorialize now. That was a comment masquerading as a question.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's come up several times in several different ways over even the last year plus about how do we revisit, how do we look at that, especially since we've had different iterations of chancellors. Deanna.
Excellent presentation, and thank you for this. One thing that I asked in the last time, several last summits, being that at Scott's Restaurant or some other places, is it will be useful to connect this process, this district or district-wide committees with existing committees at the colleges. So in the past, we have blamed the district and Donald, you hear me say that again because you took note last time and the time before. We blame the district, and that's our way out of things. But what I have seen being at the college level, that the information doesn't flow really well from the college to the district. So if the district is there to serve us, we got to have those committees aligned very well So, and Dr. Jones wrote there, you know, we do things differently. Berkeley has the round table. I had a chance to work with Dr. Budd there. We have the College Council. Some have SEM committees, Strategic Enrollment Management. We have IC committees. Budget committee is very important. So can we have a matrix of how do we bring the information from the colleges to the district and back? Because we're doing so much work, but that information flow, and Tina is laughing, and Royal, did I touch an issue that was
No,
discussed?
yeah, so I can jump in. So our intention in our perfect world, and I emailed all the presidents for their governance structure so that I could do a matrix and share it with you all today. And the perfect world, of course, is imperfect.
Only
and
so hours in a day. we were working on that, and you know, just time got away. Thank you.
So I will still do it because it was our intention to do it for this presentation. And then maybe if I can send it to get it out to perhaps then we can get it out to this group, you know, especially, but that was our intention. I'm so sorry I didn't make it happen.
That's all right. Let's start it from the floor. Let's start it from the committees at the colleges. And Royal, one comment. I haven't seen anybody who can share the screen, run a presentation, and also incorporate chats live. So I don't know how you do that. Is somebody assisting you there that we don't see?
Thank you. Couple computers, but no, thank you.
I know the Chancellor has her hand up. And so let me say one thing in response to you, Deanna, and then we'll let the Chancellor respond in broad as we wrap up. But you're right. And a perfect example, as you know, is distance ed. There was a very strong district level committee because the colleges didn't have DE committees. Now the colleges do. So how do we edit and change our structure to honor and empower the college committees and have the district level committee be a reflection and support that? So you're absolutely right. Change often doesn't come as fast as we want it to. Chancellor, do you want to wrap us up and bring us home?
I will absolutely do that. Thank you, guys. That is exactly all of the comments that you made are the comments that I would have made, and I did not pay anyone to say that or nudge them on. You are absolutely right. It is very difficult to be part of a committee and then that committee is making recommendations. There's what they call the Stockholm syndrome, where just by me being there tempers some of the communication that may or may not take place. So I really would like for us to go back and look at that. I'd like for us to, I'm a visual person, just like we put together the board policy, the AP 2430, I think it was, that is going to be going out. It's an AP. It was developed with individuals representing the different constituency groups, with the exception, well, it was a classified professional, but still, it wasn't anyone that was appointed by a body. And that's what I'd like for us to look at. And I'd like to share that with you, maybe not at this meeting, but I do think we need to have that discussion about who or what body has primacy on the campuses for interfacing with the district-wide committees, because I think that's important. And, you know, Tina, thank you. You can put it together so we have a starting place, but that may not be the ending place. We may want to make recommendations on that. So I'm very much into a flow diagram. We've done that with our functional maps and looked at what functions are there. And I'd like to do the same thing with our participatory governance bodies. So I'm not sure how to go forward from here, but I think that's a great recommendation. Maybe, again, the Chancellor's Work Group can say, yeah, we need to do that. And we think it should be a body consisting of X, Y, Z. And then they come back and report out. And we have a kind of end of term report out, Chancellor's chat, fireside chat, whatever you want to call it. But I do think out of this, that's one of the deliverables that I think we'd like to get out of this particular body and moving forward. So thanks, guys.
And now we have 3 more hands behind you, unfortunately. I'm not sure where we are royal time-wise. Are we okay?
Yeah, we're fine. We have President Jones, then VC Brown, and then Mr. Louis Martinez. Welcome back, Louis.
Yeah, I put my comment in the chat, but I just wanted to expand on that just a little bit. A lot of the subcommittee structures are more, as I would characterize them, more organizational in terms of how the different colleges might be organized and the district. But I think in doing that, organizing it in that manner, there are some critical functions that we are responsible for as it relates to our accreditation, that we don't have a sort of a participatory governance body overseeing some of those things. And the big one is accreditation. So which district body is responsible for accreditation? Well, given the subcommittees, it's hard to dictate. I think it probably lives in a couple of different places. So, and then the other one is the overall planning. I'm assuming that that lives in the planning and budget. However, in my time here, all the conversations in that committee has only dealt with budget. There isn't a component that deals with the planning. And so I'm just saying that we may want to think about that in a slightly different way that picks up some of the things that we're responsible for as part of the accreditation.
Thank you, BC Brown.
I just wanted to add that I also look forward to restructuring PBIM and officially taking Dempsey out of the PBIM manual, since that did go through the shared governance to make the change that we made. And then also I've been thinking about and would like to discuss adding a third subcommittee to DASC. It's not that we want more committees, but we do now, we are officially launching a data integrity committee, that's a district-wide committee, and a way to institutionalize the importance of that work from the Cambridge West consultant that helped us and is continuing to help us with data integrity. This is a good way to institutionalize and create ongoing accountability around the work of that committee. So when we do get ready to come back and look at the structure and change the manual, I'd be happy to participate in those discussions and revisions.
Thank you. Mr. Martinez.
Hi, Royal. Thank you so much. I just would like to echo what Alejandro said earlier and what the Chancellor said, the importance of having classified. And just want to say the challenges for many classified is trying to develop a meaningful way by which we can participate, but also support our existing supervisors and managers. And I hope we can really revisit what Alejandro was talking about, because it is a pressure that classified feels that that it is often difficult to get that level of support. I'm not saying we don't get it, but I'm saying it's hard to get that support. And often you see classified year after year the same basis. And we want to increase that number so then people can understand what we're doing collectively and support the different levels at the college. So again, from this meeting, I hope we can revisit Alejandro, make that as a deliverable and revisit it and try to get that in place so we have a vibrant discussion and that involves classified with strong partnership with everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to Ms. Maisha Jamison for effective committee practices, I just wanted to mention a housekeeping for those of you who may not have been on when we started back. If you are not already a regular, I guess, member of a committee, if you could go in and rename yourself at the beginning of your name with which committee you would like to be in the breakout room. So when we do that next part after the Maisha's presentation, she can get you to the appropriate room. So with that, I see, that's still the same hand. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Maisha Jamison.
Hello, everyone. I am going to, the Chancellor asked me to share some effective practices that we have Most of them have been implemented at Laney from my participation there on the college council and throughout our other shared governance bodies. And looking at two screens. So if I'm looking up, I'm looking at you, I'm looking down at the presentation. So, and excuse my scratchy throat as well. But I'll try to go quickly, and I have a presentation that I'll share. It's really simply just for folks to look back on later if you are interested. So I will, let me share that right now. Can everyone see that?
We will be able to shortly. It's still coming up.
Still coming up?
Yeah.
Not yet?
Not yet.
That's weird. Okay, let me put it, let me change. Oh boy, my computer is of course freezing. It's not even letting me not share it. Oral, can you unshare my document right now? And I'm gonna try to do it again on a different screen.
Actually, I don't have the ability to do that. I've been, I'm not a.
Oh, you're not a host. Sasha, can you do that? Can you unshare? It's freezing for me, so I'm not even able to do it. I'm gonna go ahead.
Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to pull it up myself, so hold on. Which?
But you got it? Great. I'm gonna switch screens really quick. 1 second. See if this works.
Which item is it? I don't.
No, it's okay. I'll share. I'll share. It's the effective committee presentation. Do you see it in Teams?
I just see the PBIM presentation. I don't see the effective.
It's in the meeting. That's okay. Let me see it.
Sorry, I'm still looking. Oh, there it is. I got it.
Got it? Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to share?
Yeah, no problem.
Perfect.
This is a perfect example of how to run effective meetings. Have a colleague helping you. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay, so you can move to the next slide. So you're at the beginning of a school year, or you're new to a committee, maybe you're new to chairing a committee, but at the beginning of the school year, you should definitely have this information ready and at your fingertips to be able to discuss and ensure that your committee is aware of it and that you're aware of it. So you want to have your committee charge and responsibilities and be aware of what you're charged to do as a committee, right? What are you supposed to do as a committee? And you'd be surprised how many folks are not aware of their charge. So just so that can kind of gauge and guide your work throughout the year. You want to have an understanding of your committee and where it falls within the decision-making process for the district or / college, and have an understanding, and that can be found in the Participatory Governance Manual, which has been mentioned a couple of times, will hopefully be updating soon. We did that at Laney last year and the previous year, and it's just been very helpful to keep everything up to date. And now we have a process for updating after every iteration is updated. And it kind of follows a systematic process for making sure that things are maintained and up to date in our manual. For membership, you want to know your membership composition, and then ensure that you know who the terms, right? What term your membership, what members of your membership are in. So is it a 2-year term? If they do, what year they're in, but tracking those terms. And then who makes the appointment. So ensuring that you reach out to the, if it's the faculty senate president or the DAS president, the district academic classified, the district classified president, who is making the appointments for the respective members of your committee, and just understanding that. And ensure that your committee is fully staffed. Especially at least by the second meeting of the year, would ideally the first. And so what we've been trying to do, haven't been successful yet, but we're really trying to do is get the appointments for committees confirmed at the end of the previous year, so that you can hit the ground running, kind of how the chancellor mentioned in the fall. And you want to ensure that you have a calendar of meetings so that all of your members know what the time commitment is, when they're not, guessing where they're supposed to be and when. And so it also helps to ensure regular attendance, and then send out calendar invites for those meetings. So sorry. And then you want to, as we showed how it kind of puts a damper on things in this particular instance, you want to have notes and documentation from previous years, previous meetings, previous years, so that there's a continuity there, right? You're not starting from the beginning every year trying to develop goals, trying to figure out what you need to be doing. And what will help with that is to ensure that you have a web or cloud-based platform where you're housing your documents. If they're on somebody's computer, or say you have a minute taker in there, it's on there, everything's on their computer, you're always having to ask for documentation. And then with our turnover at the district, right, you might not be able to have access to that. So ensuring that there is some type of system for maintaining committee documentation, and ensuring that you have an informed membership. And so I'll speak a little bit more to that a little bit later in terms of orienting your committee. Thank you. Setting committee goals annually. So determining your goals. Ideally, they should be confirmed by the first or second meeting. What has really helped us at Laney in terms of the College Council has been to review the assessment from the previous year. So I'll get to assessment, and to then determine our goals based on that assessment. And then what the chair of the committee would do, or their support staff, would be to do go through the assessment, create, pull out the themes, and come to the first meeting or to that last meeting of the spring, right? Come to that meeting with a draft or some proposed goals. It gets the ball rolling, it gets it started, and then folks can chime in, no, delete that, add this, whatever you want. And then hopefully by the first or second meeting, you guys as a committee can confirm your goals and hit the ground running in the fall. And you want to ensure that those goals are aligned with the institutional, whether that be district or college goals, strategic goals, as well as back up to the board goals. And there's a link to the board goals in the, they are included in our Teams folder for your work later, as well as in the agenda. And you want to make sure to allocate time to address your goals, because they can with the busyness of a committee, you may not get to them. So make sure you allocate that in your agenda, and ensure that you assess your goals every year. Next slide. And so this is another thing that has come, committee having an orientation to your committee or to share governance in general has been helpful at Laney. It came out of our goals, our assessment, and informed that our assessment that informed our goals for a couple of years, where committee members, particularly those who are new to shared governance, or maybe students who are not sure about how things flow, what are the processes, what are the systems for shared governance, both at the college and the district. And so in our orientation, these are some suggestions as to what to include. There could be others, but go over your charge and responsibilities, your committee's charge and responsibilities. Go over any ground rules there may be regarding attendance and respectful engagement. Go over the decision-making process, going from the colleges up to the district, shared governance or participatory governance bodies. And then, as I believe it was Tina who mentioned that the chancellor then makes the decisions, right? But we're making recommendations to share that. And then how your committee fits within that structure. Also share responsibilities as a committee member, so that you're supposed to be prepared for meetings. You're supposed to be reviewing meeting materials before you get to your committee, so that questions, there's less for questions because everybody is prepared, and we can get on to the business of reviewing and deciding on a decision to put forward. And processing, the process for submitting agendas and adhering to deadlines. Ensuring that you go over the assessment results from previous years. So making sure that folks know what what highlights the committee, what was great about what the committee did, maybe what some things that the committee could do better and improve on, and having an understanding of moving forward in that committee that year. The committee goals and calendar, as well as where and how to locate documentation for the committee. So those are things that you would include in your orientation so that committee members come in informed and ready to go. And a committee calendar. So I spoke to that a little bit earlier, and it really should include items that you routinely review as a committee every year. So for example, the facilities planning committee, or sorry, the district facilities committee, the district technology committee, they all know that they're going to be reviewing college priorities at some point. The PBC knows that they're going to be reviewing the budget at some point. It's then also going to go to the PGC. Include that on your master calendar and do it have it month by month planned out so that when you are developing your meeting agendas, you're not missing it, and you're ensuring that the movement of the work is moving along and you're staying on task. Next slide. And agendas. Agendas and minutes both require for each meeting. We're working to stay in accordance with the Brown Act, and so we want to post 72-hour agendas 72 hours in advance, both to make sure your committee has it as well as to the public, because all of our meetings are public. And organize your agendas so that they share the type of agenda items so that it's easier for the committee members to flow. They know what they're being asked to do at each meeting. So whether it's informational item, a discussion item, or an action item, or it could be update presentation, include that information on your agenda. Having a template to use is very helpful so that committee members know how to find what on each agenda, and it's not changing from whoever is creating it. And then also including a list of members and note the number for quorum is very helpful to the person who is kind of doing the technical stuff behind the scenes, to our support staff. That's very helpful for us. We're taking minutes and kind of ensuring that we have quorum and who's a voting member or not, et cetera. Also include the expected time for each item. We've all been in committees where they have gone over every single time. And so if we include time on your agendas, it'll help it flow a little bit better. Allocate, again, time during each meeting to address goals, or some, and I'll speak to it a bit later, assign maybe a subcommittee or a task force to address particular goals. And again, maintain that cloud-based storage platform for maintaining your items. And I wish I could give at Laney, and I'll just give a little plug here for board docs for managing all the committees has been great. It's really saved us so much work at Laney, and I know President Besikoff can speak to this. We now have all of our committees within board docs, and so we have all of our meeting materials, everything, the history, all of that maintained there, and it really was, I think, a worthwhile investment. Looks like Rudy's raising his hand.
Yeah, just very quickly, and pretty much anything Maisha says I would treat as a best practice. Just really, she's been awesome to Laney, and long before I showed up in 2018. I'll just say that much. But on the point of board docs, as someone who has chaired a pretty substantial committee virtually, just having board docs really gives you using it really gives you the ability to scroll through all the things in a meeting, and having any and all documents for a meeting be PDF gives you the ability to essentially have one window of Adobe open, share it, and then just run item by item through meetings. And it's just been great. And I'm just so appreciative to Maisha just for kind of helping Laney bring in board docs and use it for what it's worth.
And I don't work for board docs, you guys, but it's really helped us. Minutes, same thing, ensuring that you're taking them. Thank you, President Besikoff. Ensuring that you're taking them regularly, ensuring that you have a dedicated committee, a secretary or note taker to take the minutes is very helpful. just because they'll, well, there's no reason to say why that's important. I think most of us do that anyway. Capturing decisions. So oftentimes there's go back and forth between the different types of minutes you want to see. Are they action minutes, or do they kind of do a narrative of what everybody's saying? I think somewhere in between is important, because you'll have folks to say, I want this in the minutes, even though it's not an action, right? But at least include decisions that are made, actions that are made. That's the most important to include in your minutes. And complete and communicating out your minutes, right? So ensuring that at the latest, they're ready for the next meeting, ideally before that, and they're posted. And then again, I'm going to keep on saying this, maintain a cloud-based storage. I'm dealing with the fallout of not having that situation. So it's helpful. Committee assessment, ensuring that you're conducting an annual assessment of your committee. This is something we've been doing at Laney, I think, for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And it's really helpful. I think that each of the committees have gotten better in terms of their effectiveness year by year. And so that assessment can look different depending upon the committee, but at the very least, we do it in SurveyMonkey. It's a simple SurveyMonkey survey sent out to all of the committee members. And you affect your committee's effectiveness, right? Are the agendas and minutes on time? Are you organized? Are you getting things? Do you know where to go for things? Are people showing up? Following the charge that you're, supposed to be doing as a committee, following your documented and established processes for your committee. Are you doing that? Are you meeting your goals? Have you, accomplished your goals? And also a space where folks can share accomplishments of a committee. What are the things that your committee is doing right? So you can continue that and bolster that, right? And then also an area for areas of improvement. And the most important thing is to use that assessment, the assessment results, to inform continued improvement, continued quality improvement, right? And just once you get things in place, you'll be surprised to realize how seamlessly things will go, because you have the systems in place and it's just falling now. Communication. This has been spoken to a lot today. So both with the communication within committees is important, right? How timely sharing of information with your committee members so that they can make informed decisions, and allowing for free and respectful, safe communication from your committee members, and expressions of opinions that may differ from yours is important. So within committees is important, between committees. So whether you're on a college, discussion between college, technology and facilities, or institutional effectiveness in the various resource committees, and then also from the college and district committees, like has been mentioned several times, very important for the flow of information. And you guys spoke to that, so I don't need to go into that. And then also with the external community, right? You're posting your documentation because there's folks who are not in any of the committees. And then also, because these are public meetings, we need to make sure that we're transparent with our decisions and with our minutes and things. Yes, and so just ensuring that we communicate on all those fronts. And yes, everybody, the presentation is in the Teams folder, and I can send it out as well. Kind of try to make it like a checklist so that folks can go through it. And then my final slide is really to have some type of committee agreement on how you work as a committee, attending all meetings, arriving on time and staying to the end. Enough said on that. Listen and speaking with respect. So again, allowing differing of opinions and listening and speaking with respect. I'll say that twice or a third time. Listen and speaking with respect. Being concise and staying on topic so that you can stay within your scheduled meeting time. And representing your report. This is very important. These second two, representing and reporting back to your constituency. That communication, it's on the last slide, but I didn't mention it. It's really important. I found that it's, one of the things that kind of lacks a little bit. If you're representing the classified senate on the college council, or if you're representing, the expectation is that you're bringing items to the council from that body that are of concern, and that you're also things that are happening at the council, you're bringing it back to that body. So that's to that constituency. Very important to ensure that's happening, because we, the committees are doing a lot of good work, and it's just not it's not known. And so to ensure that fluid communication is happening. Adhering to deadlines for submitting agenda items or reviewing materials and getting back. And then if you want to implement things like Robert's Rules of Order in terms of ways of operating. So just come to some type of agreement on how you're going to work. I tried to do that within 10 minutes. I think I went over a little bit. So thank you guys. Any questions?
Thank you, Maisha. Very helpful information. And as she said, she'll distribute all of these slides so that everyone will have the information. At this time, oh, go ahead. I see you. Two hands up, and then we'll move. And Donald Moore, and then Sasha.
Yeah, just right quickly. Thank you, Maisha. Yeah, somewhere we need these kind of slides for the beginning of the semester or the year when new people come on, and some kind of orientation. And we also need, whether it's Robert's Rules or something, so people know how to function within meeting. When you say point of order or call the question, what do those comments actually mean? They have significant meaning to them. And then ultimately about the Brown Act, what is the Brown Act? Who has to respond to the Brown Act, and why they have to respond to the Brown Act, right? All of those things need to be incorporated. It needs to be incorporated within the PBIM manual. It needs to be done in the college manuals for governance, and then they need to be brought out and trained with. So the appointment of people should be done in the spring, so that way the new people, when they come in, they could get oriented in some type of way. So thank you very much, Maisha, but we do need some kind of way of getting that information out and use it to train people. Thank you.
Welcome.
Sasha?
Yeah, Maisha, great presentation, by the way. How does somebody actually join a committee? If I wanted to be on the PGC, I mean, as a board clerk, am I allowed to join any of these committees? And if, or which ones I'm allowed to join? Is somebody who has no idea, and clearly there's some people on here that are new, and they wanted to join a committee. How did I miss that earlier, or I don't know.
You want to respond, Royal? You want me to?
Oh no, go right ahead.
So everybody's been mentioning the participatory governance manual. In that manual, you'll see all the membership composition for each committee, and then it also states who makes that appointment. So most of the positions are appointments. So for instance, the district academic senate president would make the appointments for faculty. Classified senate president would make the classified appointments. And some of them are by position. So check out that manual if you're interested in any of them. I don't know if it would hurt reaching out to folks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start assigning the breakout rooms. We'll set the breakout rooms for 50 minutes. And then, can you hear me? Did I freeze? I think I'm frozen.
You're good.
No, you hear you.
Okay, I thought I was frozen. Okay, we're going to set the breakout rooms for 50 minutes. And at this time, we will go into the breakout rooms. Those breakout meetings will be chaired by the co-chairs of the committee. And the idea is for you to start framing the goals of those committees. That's my understanding. Chancellor, do you add anything, or go ahead, Maisha, or the Chancellor?
No, I'm just going to ask for Sasha to support me. I'm going to have to go to PGC because I take minutes for that one. So if there is any moving folks back and forth, can you stay in this main room, if possible?
You got it. I just put myself in PGC, but you got it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm just doing a time check because I'm looking at our calendar, and we want it to be finished by 4 o'clock so we could do kind of a committee report out. And unless my clock is wrong, I don't think we can have 50 minutes and then still have 30 minutes report out. Is my clock stopped or slow or fast or something?
No, I was planning on, well, I actually had on my notes, this is when I thought we were going to get out a little bit before. I was going to do 50 minutes and then cut the report outs to 3 minutes per group. But if you want to switch it around, we can do shorter in the breakout rooms and the full time.
No, that's fine. I just, when you said 50 minutes, that I'm thinking, how are we going to have 30 minutes to do report out? So if you feel that 50 minutes is enough time, if individuals, when you feel like you finish, if you finish prior to that, just let us know, and then we can say.
I think you're right. Let's go 45 minutes on the breakout rooms, and then we'll divide the report outs by the remaining allotted time.
Okay, sounds good.
We're back.
All right, is that everyone? That looks like a critical mass. So we're going to get started with the report outs. We still have some more people popping in. So we have 5 committees plus the chancellor for a closing comment. So we're gonna give everyone about 3.4 minutes. I'm gonna try to kind of stick pretty close to that. And we're actually gonna go in what I'm gonna say is reverse order, but we're gonna start with the DTC, and then we'll go PBC, DASC, DFC, and then PGC to close us out. And if you can't remember that, neither can I. So DTC, let's go ahead and get started with your report back.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chief Robert. For the DTC, we just met and talk about the goal we have for the next year. So the goal we come up with 4 goals for right now. We didn't have a quorum, so we don't have every member of the DTC at the meeting. So we are putting this goal until our first meeting to discuss it more and agree to it and vote it out and make it a permanent goal. But the tentative goals are, the first goal is the incident response team for cybersecurity and all that stuff, all the IT bridges and all that stuff. How do we respond to that? And that goal is to create a structure in place so we can respond to any incidents. And that is part of one of our AP we have, a security AP we have. And the second goal is the metrics, the technology master plan metrics. It is a piece of the technology master plan, which is the living document. And it's the role of the DTC to prioritize those technology and make a recommendation every year to the chancellor. And that will be a permanent goal that the DTC will have for the next 5 years. And because we just developed our technology master plan. So every year we'll be identifying technology projects that needs to happen and identify the budget, the money, and make a recommendation to the chancellor. And the third goal is the delineation of duties, responsibility between the colleges and the district. We work on it for the ACCJC, but we want to make sure that the document is a living document and it's updated regularly. Like when we implement new technology, then we identifying who's responsible of what and trainings and all the other things, paying licenses, fees, and maintenance. The fourth goal is the PeopleSoft upgrade, to make sure that we finish the phase 2 PeopleSoft upgrade successfully. So the DTC will work to develop the language for all these goals and posted it out when it's permanent. So that's what we have. Thank you. Matt, you want to add something?
I don't. You covered everything. Thanks, Antoine.
Yeah.
Thank you, and great job staying within the time.
Can I ask for folks to make sure that you upload these, either send them to me or upload them to the PBIM Teams folder?
Yes.
Just want to make sure I'm getting them correctly. Okay, yes. Thanks.
Thank you. And now we'll move to the PBC.
Okay, the PBC talked about, we make the first goal is that when we prepare the budget, we're gonna talk about the part-time adjunct, the adjunct budget. So I can discuss it, how I develop those budgets, so the BBC knows how this budget is done. We always have some misunderstanding about how we do the budgeting for the for the part-timers. That's one of our goals that I had to discuss it with the BBC, prior to presenting the budget, so we can discuss the way we set up our budget regarding the part-time adjunct. Second goal is that bringing to the BBC that we stay in budget a quarterly basis, budgets versus actuals. So I may bring that to the BBC so we can say I can do it in overall district and also by college where we're standing. So the BBC to be aware where we're running into. That's it. Unless I know that Tom is not here. If Lowell want to add something, or anyone else, Derek, it's fine to add anything I missed.
We talked a little bit about the assessment of the recommendations made by the budget, by the BAM task force. So the budget allocation model task force was something else that we had talked about, and just a further examination of FTEF and class assignment, maintaining class low enrolled classes, I should say.
Right.
Could I make a recommendation to the PBC?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, I'll just go forward with it since nobody said no. One of the things that I heard that we talked about and that Maisha also brought up in her effective committees is an orientation. When I was at Skyline, we had a planning and budget committee, although we called it something else. And that committee and the individuals that were on that committee had been on that committee for a long time, but they had never really had an orientation. And it was so well received because people felt like they understood the budget, they understood the process from how it came from the state down to how it got allocated at the district to how it got to Skyline College. And that because people said, we feel like we're just rubber stamping whatever that you guys tell us to do. And now that they understood it, and they felt that their recommendations were a part of the overall integrated planning and budget for that particular college. I'm not talking about at a district level, but at least an orientation I think would be great because you guys have a lot of new people. And I think every year that would be great to do it specifically for this committee because it's so critical.
Thank you, Chancellor. We're moving on to Dask.
Thank you, Chief Roberts. We had a really good discussion. I appreciate the participation of everyone. We went over the board goals, and then we had discussion about this year incorporating a couple of standing items, which would be the adult education work and the Office of International Affairs work as standing report items. And the reason why is because those are two areas that function on both the instructional and student services side of the house, but sometimes kind of float on their own in some ways. And we're seeking to support the better communication integration at the district office. And then as it relates to our goal, it looks like we're onto something really good, which is to take the first board goal, which is around supporting academic instructional quality and student success, some wording like that, and relate it to the district goals, and then create our goal under that, and be very transparent about some areas where we're struggling and seeking changes. So that might be, areas of international where they're needing feedback and seeking changes, seeking to address challenges, non-credit, and then definitely with the Student Journey Project, it's really critical that we receive a lot of feedback on aspects of the student journey in relation to the 9.2 enhancements and the way that we're going to prioritize what will roll out and what will benefit students the most. And that is related to the degree audit, auto awarding of degrees, and then the next step after that, the waitlist process that people bring up, the onboarding process of students, and pick kind of a few selective items, because within the student journey, there's so many steps that people kind of, do this, but we will pick particular ones where we really need a lot of feedback. So our first meeting, my executive assistant, Laura, and I will put this all on paper, and we'll see where the committee's at, and we can finalize our goals. And then that's it.
Thank you. You have the Chancellor in the queue, and then Donald Moore. Or that may have been before Chancellor. We'll go to Donald Moore, and then if the Chancellor still has something, we'll go from there.
In our PGC meeting just now, we were talking about enrollment. There was supposed to be a strategic enrollment, a district-wide one for enrollment, and we didn't know whether or not you guys are just doing it within your body, or are you creating a work group or a subcommittee on enrollment at the district? And so could you speak to that at some point? Doesn't have to be now.
I will just really quickly now, because I didn't mention it. We are updating the colleges are updating their strategic enrollment management plans. Matter of fact, we just met about this last night. And then their updates feed the updating of the district enrollment management plan. The colleges will all have their SEM plans updated throughout this academic year with the completion in spring. And then we will take that information, all come together and integrate it up and combine it with the district, especially technological advancements, improvements in relation to the college SEM plans. So people will all be hearing about that more, at least from my office, more in the spring as we receive information from the colleges. And yeah. And then, but last is that at every DASC meeting, we'll do an enrollment report, and we'll talk about what's happening, and the vice presidents that are there can talk about their planning, in relation to what's happening with the pandemic and fake students and all that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, VC Brown. We'll now go to the District Facilities Committee.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen for a second. We have, as I had mentioned earlier, we did meet for our first meeting. It was the first Friday of the month. And what we talked about was our membership, but we did not establish our goals. We just discussed them. But again, what was evident to everyone was our frequency in meeting, and also the communication. So we went back through our goals today and discussed how to apply better communication, more transparency, and actually a commitment to being in this on this committee. So our first goal was understanding the process of the 5-year plan, outlay, updates for each college. So we talked about the requirements. We'll have a workshop at the DFC, have better communication, how it was developed, and also go back to the facilities committee meetings and talk about the 5-year plan, the IPPs, the FPPs, and just the capital outlay. The second goal was to continue to implement total cost of ownership guidelines. The total cost of ownership, the last document we have is from 2016. So we want to review the past commitment of total cost of ownership, do a workshop, understand, do updates to our website, look at what the cost is for new projects, look at what the cost of maintenance for existing, try to provide some sort of flow chart, give announcements when we're talking about total cost of ownership, sustainability, and take surveys within our meeting for checks and balances to see if we're meeting that goal. Number 3, maintain shared governance process communication for the following. The bond spending plan, facilities master plan updates, design standards, sustainability, ADA, and the CBOC. Again, improve the communication for that goal. Number 3, we changed our 4th goal because it was achieved. And what that goal, the prior goal was a 1.5% of the bond be allocated to address deferred and scheduled maintenance. And that is where we have the infrastructure and bundled projects. So we address that goal and we are going to address it and move that up and report out on that in goal number 3. So our new goal, goal number 4, is participation and involvement from colleges and the district. The use of resources, report out on that, and promote communication, share our accomplishments, continue the road shows to the facilities committees, and also have the same presentations in the DFC. And just because we go to the road shows, we were committed, and we went to the facilities committee meetings, but we didn't always maintain the district-wide facilities committee meetings. So it is a commitment to do both and to do better at communication and participation. That's it for us.
Thank you. Moving on to PGC. Oh, I'm sorry, Chancellor. The Chancellor, and then after that, we'll move to PGC.
Just again, a recommendation. One of the things that we need to do, and I said that I would bring this forward, is that I think it would fall under DGS, under the facilities committee, is to look at establishing a holistic safety and wellness advisory committee. We're in the process of hiring, hopefully, the last stages of hiring a public safety director position, and that individual needs to have some kind of advisory committee. And I think that the facilities committee would be the district committee to make that recommendation going forward. I did get a volunteer to sit on that committee, and that was, who was it? Dr. King had indicated that she would like to sit on that committee as far as being on an advisory committee. And I told her I would bring that recommendation forward, which is what I'm doing now. And then the other thing is, are you planning, is this committee going to have a meeting before October the 4th? And the reason that I ask is because our 5-year construction plan is due to the state the first part of October. And so I don't know if you need to have a special meeting to discuss that, as that's one of your goals. But the window is closing shortly if you aren't going to have a meeting until after that date.
You know what, I'll send out a communication and ask if we can move up. It is going to the board. It's scheduled to go to the board. And yes, it's due, so we can discuss it. I can send out a communication to move the meeting up.
Okay, and then also the discussion on the holistic safety and wellness advisory committee. I think we need to develop that, since this is a new process, and it's not, and I'm putting that out there, not just for DGS, but also for facilities, but for other committees to discuss that too, how we want to implement the recommendations that went forward, and also the board resolution that went forward, that the board adopted on that. So, okay, those are my recommendations. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I added that to our list.
President Jones, I'll loop back around. I just want to make sure we get to the PGC, and then the Chancellor has some very important closing comments. So PGC.
I can share the screen, Donald, you can speak to him. You want to do it that way?
Maisha, you could go for it.
Oh, okay. We're gonna, did everybody see what I'm reading here?
Yes.
Identify a standardized platform for committee materials and implement it. So just making sure and we have continuity from year to year for committee documentation. Ensure that we do regular assessment of our committee as well as the others. Part of the scope of the PGC is to ensure to review and make recommendations for effectiveness of the other PBIM committees. Develop a master calendar for the PGC and align the items on that master calendar with critical activities at the state level, colleges, and at the district level, so that we're kind of driving what needs to be done. Creating subcommittees for key areas of the PGC, the PGC's responsibility and scope. So things that are in our scope include reviewing and addressing accreditation, how we're meeting accreditation standards, master planning, strategic master planning, and monitoring PBIM effectiveness, like I mentioned earlier. And then reviewing the PBIM structure for possible necessary or appropriate updates. Did I miss anything, guys?
No.
No, you got it. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.
Great. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to the Chancellor for her announcement. Well, President Jones, do you have something real fast before we go to the Chancellor?
It was just a quick suggestion to the Facilities Committee. I think you may want to look at periodically reviewing and updating the fee schedules and standardize that across the district with regard to use of our campus facilities. It's my understanding that a market assessment and an update to those fee schedules haven't been done in a very long time, and I think that's something that you may want to look at doing.
Thank you. Thank you. So at this time, I want to turn it over to the Chancellor for her closing comments.
First of all, I think this was a great meeting. Thank you for putting your time and your efforts and your attention into our governance process. So I want to start out with that. I also want to let you know, during the time that you were in your breakout sessions, I was trying to take care of some other business. One of the things that came out of that was a telephone call that I had with the ACCJC, and I talked to the individual there, Vice President is Catherine Webb, Dr. Catherine Webb. She's been assigned as the facilitator between ACCJC and us and the visiting team. And her news was that we are going to have to change the date of our team visit, even though it's a virtual visit. She could not, they gave us 3 dates. The date that we had recommended was for October the 20th and the 21st. Unfortunately, 2 of the critical members of the team that was here in January are not available during that time. One of the meeting dates, the board has a national conference. Some members are going to be attending that, as well as one of the individuals that's on our team. So the alternate date was October the 18th and the 19th. So we will be sending that information out. I've already talked to Mark about doing that. Please mark your calendars to delete October the 20th and 21st and to reschedule it to the 18th and the 19th. Let me just quickly go over how the logistics will play out. Once we submit our report to them prior to or on October the 1st. It will immediately be sent out to the members that are on the site visit team. Once they review it, they will then get back to Dr. Webb on the interviews that they would like to conduct during their visits. There will be no open forums. It will only, because it's a follow-up report, they will only be asking for interviews of certain individuals. They may even ask for additional documentation. So just to be aware of that. The point of contact for the district will be Dr. Siri Brown, as she is the district ALO. She will communicate with the ALOs at the campuses, and the chief of staff, Roy Roberts, will also be a backup contact to make sure that we put this on the agenda if we need to discuss it, communicate with the presidents, coordinate communication with the board if they're going to be doing interviews of the board. And all of us together will work on a schedule of when they want to do those interviews. They'll give us some times. They'll tell us who is going to be interviewed, and then we will set up a schedule on Zoom of how we can address that. So that is a big news, because it kind of changes a lot of different things. I know some individuals might be gone or out, but if you're going to be interviewed, it would be through Zoom, and it would only be at most an hour that you would have to carve out of your day if you were not going to be available or on vacation or whatever else may come up. So that is what's happening on the ACCJC report. I do want us to get back together. I'm not sure how to facilitate that, because there were a lot of goals that were established. I don't know what forum or mechanism we want to disseminate that information to the campus. So be thinking of that, because I think it's important for people to know that we met, that these are what the goals are, which is why Maisha wants you to be sure to submit them. And we'll move forward, because now we're at that point where we've run out of time. So unless there's any questions, I'll turn it back over to you, Royal.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for their participation. And, I think, sometimes I read these Aesop tales, and there was a rabbit that was running from a dog, and it ran into another rabbit. And the two rabbits were arguing whether it was a hound dog that was chasing them or a greyhound. And while the two rabbits were arguing, the dog came and ate them both. So the moral of the story is, let's not argue, because we need to keep moving, because we got a lot of dogs chasing us. So with that, enjoy your Friday and your weekend, and great job to everyone.
That's funny.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a
Be
great
safe.
weekend. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Royal, that sounds like Tales from the Hood.
I'm
Turn
thinking
off that
I might
recording.
need to send you some nicer books, Royal.
Thank you, guys.